The Mystery of Zhang Gong. Chapter 1. It was the Qingming festival in the capital, the sky slightly overcast without the slightest drizzle. Lan Zhu, the Minister of Rites, strolled out his residence from a small corner gate. Vice Minister Lan had been feeling quite panicked these past few days. The preliminary round for the imperial examinations were getting closer, so increasingly more people had begun carrying gifts to his residence. However, the court had recently begun to cleanse out political corruption. The noble and unsullied members of the censorate had sent impeachment memorials to the throne, each of their submissions with his name written on them. Today, a few people from the court had sent Lan Zhu a stack of incisively written accordion books omitting names. Pressed at the very top were cinnabar inscriptions. Zhen believes Lan Qing will definitely select talents for the court. Manage the preliminary round well. Notes. Zhen, used by the emperor when referring to himself. Lan Qing, Qing means subject, used by the emperor. The handwriting was sharp with a trace of youthful childishness. It was written by the emperor. Lan Zhu held the stack of accordion books, his wrist pained. The natures of offense written on these impeachments were, generally speaking, all he'd been stained with, but if we were speaking specifically they were also far too emphasized. Then and again, once an official's robe was worn, who wouldn't experience such things? It's just, since he received this pile of things, this year's preliminary round for the imperial examinations had to be cleaned of all impurities, leaving not even the slightest scent of fishy odors. The young emperor had only just turned 15 last year, had just taken over the reins of government, and his tactics were gradually emerging. In the future, he'd have to increase his alertness. Vice Minister Lan placed the emperor's instructions on his desk, his brain beginning to hurt. Wealth and money were valuables kept for entertainment. It streamed continuously before his eyes, yet he had to refrain from taking it. However, even if he did return it, he had to pay lots of caution and lose many favors. Vice Minister Lan felt so frustrated he changed into casual clothes and went out alone to release the stuffiness in his heart. After he exited the long alley, under a big tree on the side of the street, Lan Zhu caught sight of a lone person standing upright as they watched Lan residence. That person was approximately in his 20s. He was tall and emaciated, dressed in a grey and shabby changshan, his skin a yellowish black, cheeks sunken, brows furrowed, a pair of hungry eyes staring at the entrance of Master Ian's home. Notes, changshan, the male equivalent to a cheongsam. Master Lan felt this person wasn't here to send him gifts. He immediately thought of all the bad he'd ever done. Unexpectedly, he couldn't think of anything that matched with this person. The thought of all the romantic affairs he'd made during his early years, even including those from when he was 16, but he couldn't think of any that could have given him a son of this age. But the young man's persistent stare at Lan residence made Master Lan feel a crippling panic. By chance, he saw 3 or 4 scholars walking along the opposite street. These people turned their heads and saw the young man. They suddenly chucked a few times and muttered to each other in low voices. Lan Zhu took a detour and followed them to a tea shop. Just as they were going to enter, Lan Zhu stepped forward and cupped his hand in greeting. "Brothers, are you also here as examines for the preliminary round?" The scholars and Lan Zhu exchanged conventional greetings before entering the tea house to drink and gossip about the preliminary rounds together at the same table. "I've heard that Grandma Liu's grandson Fu is also participating. It seems the first rank has been set, and only 2 positions are left for competition." Another scholar wearing a green changshan spoke. "I know myself. I'll be content as long as I'm on the list, even if I'm ranked last. I don't dare think about being ranked first, so I'll just let it be." A blue-robed scholar said with a smile, "It's a pity we can't reincarnate into the Lu or Wang family, or have enough wealth to buy into Vice Minister Ian's threshold." Lan Zhu followed his words with a response. That Vice Minister Lan might not be as snobbish as rumors depict him. Just then I saw a dark, thin buddy standing by the entrance of the Vice Minister's residence. He didn't appear rich or powerful. The scholars laughed, and the blue-robed scholar asked, "Brother Cao, could it be the person you saw was a tall, thin man wearing a shabby, grey changshan who had a slight bumpkin air to him?" Lanju nodded. "Yes, yes." The scholar in blue chuckled a few times. "He wants to enter the vice minister's residence, but he's afraid the stone lions won't let him. It seems Brother Cao really did just arrive at the capital. You haven't even heard of this friend. This person is called Zhangping, an examinee from Sichuan County. I've heard he has no mother nor father, grew up in the city god temple, studied in a school relying on the donations of a government official living there, and managed to get admitted into Sichuan County's list of recommendations to the capital. Unfortunately, he gained a bad reputation because of one matter. The most ridiculous part of this matter was that in the end, he actually set up a stall selling noodles at the market and made every scholar lose face. Even examines who came to the capital with him from Sichuan country rarely interact with him. When Master Lan heard of such bleak life experiences, his tiny heart felt nothing, and he even thought back to the things he'd done behind everyone's back. "I shouldn't have ruined any families." Master Lan pondered with uncertainty. Seeing how dumbfounded he was, the blue-robed scholar continued. "Does Brother Cao also believe this noodle-selling matter to be outrageous?" Lanju replied, "It's indeed unexpected for someone to actually do this." Another brown-robed scholar went on to say, "It's because this Zhangping was desperate. According to what I know, when he first arrived at the capital he rented a dilapidated house to live in. The landlord relied on his rice shop for a living. Seeing how honest and sincere Zhangping was, he didn't charge him for rent and even helped him provide all 3 of his meals. In return, he only let him settle his shop's accounts. That shop owner had a daughter who'd follow Zhangping in and out of the store, so he had intentions to make Zhangping become his son-in-law. Unexpectedly, he stubbornly refused, causing the young lady to almost commit suicide." Lanju spoke. "It's hard to say whether this matter is true or not. Although the landlord was kind to Zhangping, if Zhangping didn't like his daughter it wouldn't be good to force marriage." The blue-robed scholar responded. "Brother Cao is too generous. It's because Zhangping found the lady's legs and feet to be too inflexible. He believed that if there's a day he passed the exams, having such a lady as his wife would be indecent. The lady sought to commit suicide, but he didn't even go visit her. This matter spread widely. Since then, Zhangping was despised by everyone and his reputation was ruined. That nosy meddler even said that when he passed the exams he'd report this matter to Prince Huai. I can only say that he was mocking a cripple. In this life, he won't ever have the chance to hold his head high." Lanju listened with a smile. Prince Huai was the current imperial uncle. He held military power and was the temporary regent before the emperor took place. When Prince Huai was still young he broke his leg while riding, so his right leg had a slight limp. He was always serious among the examines. It seemed Zhangping had made contact with some calamity and was suppressed by it. Lanju deliberately mulled over it before speaking. "Perhaps Brother Zhang has some unspeakable difficulties, and dared not receive familial care. After all, we don't know everything about him." The scholars laughed once again. "It seems Brother Cao likes to read those fantasy novels written by Red Leaves in Western Hills and such, where there's a lot of Jianghu suspense elements." Note: Jianghu, literal translation is rivers and lakes, refers to the martial world. After bidding the scholars farewell and leaving the tea house, Lanju slowly walked back home, wondering if he should get someone to investigate Zhangping's origins, yet at the same time wondering if that would be too unfair and suspicious. He was no longer under the tree outside of Lan residence. Lanju looked at the tree for a bit and decided to wait a while. After returning to his residence, Lanju casually asked his inner residence steward whether there had been any suspicious people around lately. The steward said that except for those who came to send gifts, there wasn't anything suspicious. These words made Lanju feel dubious. His residence guards had always been cautious. If there was even a fly buzzing around the entrance a few extra rounds, they'd speculate whether an assassin had stuck a poisonous needle on its legs. It was completely illogical for them to not have noticed Zhang Ping. The steward continued. My prince, when you left, we followed and saw a poor scholar standing by the entrance. We paid special attention to him for a while. He was probably too poor to send a gift. He stood for a while before leaving. Lanju made an O sound, and never mentioned this matter again. The preliminary round was approaching, so the Yamen departments naturally had an increase of official duties. There were several major matters to take care of in court, such as Prince Huai's upcoming marriage with a concubine and the Empress Dowager's birthday, so there'd been many busy consecutive days where Lanju could only return home after dark. Note: Yamen, the administrative office or residence of a local bureaucrat. This evening, he returned home slightly earlier. He took off his official's robe and changed into semi-worn clothing before walking out of his residence. On the streets, the most seen clothing were scholarly Changshans. It appeared everyone was preparing for the preliminary round. Lanju walked around to a small street. Under an old wall, 4 bamboo poles held up a simple shed. Misty, white smoke rose from a stove under the shed. A thin young man was lifting the lid of the pot, stirring the insides with a large iron spoon, a torn apron tied around his grey, shabby Changshan, looking like a lonely ghost who'd crawled out from a ghost story. Lanju walked to the stall. Stall owner, a bowl of noodles. End chapter. Mystery of Zhang Gong. Chapter 2. The young man lifted his eyelids. There's only plain noodles left. Lanju's eyes swept across the stall and only saw a shallow basket placed on the table, 4 or 5 chicken eggs asleep within. Add a poached egg inside. Cook it a bit longer. The youth hummed in response. His expression appeared as if he didn't want to add the eggs, but he didn't say anything. The low tables by the side were empty, indicating that this noodle stall didn't actually have such good business. Lanju casually sat down at a table. On it were bottled vinegar and 2 dishes, one with chili and the other with a few heads of pickled garlic. Lanju spoke. Stall owner is from the northwest. It's common to eat noodles with vinegar there, however, this way of eating is quite rare in the capital. The youth hummed. He grabbed a handful of flour and sprinkled it on the chopping board. I'm from Nanqi, Sichuan County. Lanju smiled slightly. Nanqi, where the tea leaves are produced. I've heard the tea is best drank boiled in milk with added table salt. In the earlier days, foreigners liked his drinking method. The young man rolled a rolling pin, his head covered in flour, and said dryly, the winters are cold there, the wind's stiffer than knives, drinking such foreign tea can keep you warm. During the coldest days, we'd have to add 2 drops of wine. Yes, alcohol in the West is very strong, unlike the fragrant ones in the capital, Lanju said. The youth didn't answer, his head faced down as the knife thumped against the chopping board. The noodles had just been put into the pot before a scholar hurriedly ran into the stall and shouted, my brother Zhang Ping, why are you still selling noodles? Didn't I say there's something good I have to show you in the morning? Hurry up and go back, they'll be here in 1 hour. Zhang Ping grabbed a handful of shredded green cabbage and lowered it into the pot. I'll sell this off first. The scholar groaned. You're reluctant to lose even half a wen. Notes. Wen, copper cash, a currency used during imperial times. A string of 1,000 wen was equivalent to 1 liang, tael, of pure silver. Zhang Ping slowly spoke. If I don't earn, then I'll have no food. The scholar sighed, then dragged a small bench to sit down on. If you let an opportunity fly away just for these few copper coins, then the loss would truly outweigh the gain. Lanju was watching from the sidelines. When the scholar finally sat down properly, he began talking to him. This brother is. The friendly-looking scholar cupped his hands immediately. Thank you for asking. This junior is called Chenja. May I ask what this brother's name is, and if you're also an examinee? Lanju smilingly answered. That's right. This junior is called Cao, from Nan County. I just arrived at the capital. Master Lan was actually not young anymore, but his self-esteem was properly maintained. His colleagues in court would often praise his elegance, which allowed him to appear like a 28-year-old youth, so when conversing with these younglings, his old face wasn't flushed nor was he out of breath when calling himself a junior. Sure enough, Chen Zhou didn't feel a sliver of doubt and keenly said, "What a coincidence. Where does Brother Cao live?" "Brother Zhang and I are both examines from Zishuan County. In the future, let's become closer and discuss literary principles." Lanju sounded surprised. "Ah. So it turns out the stall owner is also an examinee." Chen Chuo paused and looked at Zhang Ping with an expression of shame and fluster. "Ah. Yes, yes. Brother Zhang's family is poor, so he has to temporarily live like this. He's actually very knowledgeable. For the selection exam back at Zishuan County, he took third place. Some people would often slander him. Brother Cao, please don't listen to them. Scholars, farmers, artisans, and merchants are all foundations of our nation. There's no such thing as high or low, noble or humble. I've heard that the court ministers once sold calligraphy on the streets and took shelter in ruined temples in their earlier years. What difference is there between selling noodles and selling calligraphy? Many can write good calligraphy, but few can make good noodles like Brother Zhang." These words Lanju said mostly from sincerity because the person who sold calligraphy on the streets in their earlier years was him. Vice Minister Lan had suffered when he was younger, so he was especially compassionate to such impoverished young people. It's a pity many people believed him to be a selfish person only concerned with gaining advantages. It truly was a misunderstanding of the world. Chen Chuo smiled once again. Yes, Brother Cao's opinion is the truly authentic one. Unfortunately, not everyone is as reasonable as Brother Cao. Lanju spoke with even more reason. Even gods from the temples would get cursed at, not to mention us common people. If they want to talk, let them talk, just act how you want. This is the so-called each look after themselves. Chen Zhou rubbed his hands and repeatedly nodded his head. Well said, Brother Cao. Seeing Zhang Ping come over with a bowl of hot noodles, he turned his body to make way. It's a pity Brother Zhang and I have something important to do today and cannot continue talking with Brother Cao. If Brother Cao is free one day, just go to Little Mice Alley. Brother Zhang and I live in the innermost courtyard, where the door faces north. Lanju nodded and picked up a pair of chopsticks. He naturally wouldn't go there. Chen Chuo stood up and rubbed his hands. Brother Zhang, it's late. How about this? I'll go and wait first at the tea house in the eastern alley. The private room on the second floor has already been booked. After you're done, get yourself changed and hurry there. Zhang Ping responded with his head buried in the chopping board. Chen Zhou apologized to Lanju again. Brother Cao, I'm sorry, I really don't mean to urge you. Eat slowly, I'm leaving first. If you think these noodles taste good, then please patronize Brother Zhang's business more. With a series of goodbyes, he left. Lanju stood up to see him off. When he sat back down, he pretended to not pay attention and, with a pot, swept the bowl away, causing the soup to spill all over the floor and even the bowl to break, the poached egg stained with mud, laying in the residues of the soup and bowl. Lanju sighed. How did my hand slip? I've ruined Brother Zhang's noodles and shattered your bowl. I'm really ashamed. He took a money pouch out from his sleeve and casually grabbed a handful of copper coins before throwing them onto the table. Zhang Ping walked to the table expressionlessly. He looked at the ground, slowly squatted down, then picked up the poached egg. Holding the egg, he walked to a bucket of clean water, ladled a scoop of water, and carefully washed the egg before placing it in a bowl. Then, he took a broom and swept the noodles and broken porcelain into a dustpan. Lanju was about to leave when Zhang stood up with the dustpan and suddenly said, "Master Lan, there wasn't poison in this bowl of noodles." Lanju stopped and turned around. In the twilight, Zhang stood leaning on the broomstick, like a lone jujube tree standing over a grave in the wilderness. He looked directly at Lanju with a faint haziness in his eyes. "Master Lan, I went to your home entrance not because I have a grudge against you. Your residence guards ate my noodles but didn't pay, so I was asking for the bill that day." End chapter. The Mystery of Zhang Gong. Chapter 3. Lanju stood in silence for a while before asking, "How did you know I saw you?" "Since Master Lan could see me, then I could see Master Lan," Zhang replied. Lanju asked again. "Then how did you guess it was me?" "Master Lan was recently impeached, so you haven't dared accept any gifts. You came out from Lan residence wearing homely clothing and didn't appear to be a residence servant." Lanju was taken aback for a moment. He somehow wanted to laugh. "Since you guessed it was me that day, why didn't you tell me about that matter?" Zhang lowered his eyelids. "It actually wasn't that big of a matter. Just a little bit of money. In addition, the debt was between me and your guard, so it had nothing to do with Master Lan. Besides, if I reported such a small matter to Master Lan, then even if they weren't angry with me, they would have tried to fix me up. What I'm managing is a small business." Lanju raised his eyebrows, not knowing what to say. Zhang put down the dustpan and returned to the table, taking the 8 copper coins from its surface. "The noodles were 3 wen and 1 bowl is 6 wen, but since it's old I'll make it 5 wen. His fingers were thin and long, and his voice was stiff and upright. Lanju watched him pocket the money. "When I came over, you were only willing to sell me plain noodles. Was it because you were sure I wouldn't be eating your noodles?" Zhang didn't answer. He wiped the tabletop with a rag. Lanju stood aside and couldn't help but think how this matter could be regarded as a pile of jokes. To encounter such an interesting examinee through this wasn't such a bad thing. Every preliminary round of the imperial examinations was a major event for scholars seeking fame in the world and an interesting event for the court ministers. Especially for ministers like Master Lan who were promoted through the imperial examinations, it was like watching amateur young chicks desperately trying to squeeze into the woods with their own pairs of old bird eyes. There was a strange kind of contentment that came from speculating their futures. After so many years of watching so many people, Master Lan felt quite sure about his foresight. With Zhang mannerisms, with how he spoke and acted, if he could make a name for himself and enter the court, a new, extraordinary branch would stretch out from the honest and upright forest. He smiled and turned to leave. Before he left, he said, "Never mind, this misunderstanding came from me being too suspicious. Your call, Zhang. If your wisdom is as great as your insight, it may not be long before you serve as a minister like me. Before then, if I have the opportunity I'll come again to taste your noodles." Zhang piled up the wooden stools. Lanju's figure had already turned a corner, leaving a long shadow that dragged and passed behind him over the old brick wall. Zhang packed away the shed, pushed up a cart, and began his journey home. When he arrived at his dorm, he smashed a jar of pickled garlic, hastily washed his face, put on the only changshan he had that could be considered normal looking, and went to Jiking Tea House located by the alley's entrance. Chen Chuo was spinning around the stairway inside the tea house. He immediately rushed over when he caught sight of him. "My boss Zhang, you're finally here. The 2 real bosses have already arrived, and tea has already been prepared upstairs. Hurry." He dragged Zhang upstairs and entered the small private room on the 2nd floor. In the private room, a tea doctor was serving tea to a man and woman sitting at the table. The man was about 50 or so, his face round with kindness and his body wide. The woman appeared to be younger than 40, her generous face coated with white powder, a pair of big gold pendants inlaid with jade swung around her ears, her raised willow brows adding a sense of capability to her. Notes: Tea doctor, someone who have amazing skills in making and serving tea. Chen Shuo bowed to the two individuals and said with a smile, Mr. Jin, Mrs. Jin, I'm very sorry. Brother Zhang was delayed for a while, causing us to neglect you. I apologize on his behalf. Beside him, Zhang Ping said, this Mr. Jin is the famous class teacher of Lakesea Troop. I've hastily met you before. Mr. Jin stood up and chuckled. You flatter me. Us troop members cannot compare to you scholarly gentlemen. Zhang Ping suddenly understood what this good business Chen Shuo was trying to introduce to him. Prices in the capital were extremely high and the costs for exam preparations were huge. Many poor examines had to find a way to bring in money as subsidy. Different ways were divided into different ranks. The first rank, selling poems and poetry essays, the second rank, selling calligraphy and paintings. Materials made in both ranks would be hastily put together, but one needed a way to make their name known. If one did well and their false reputation floated into court, allowing their poems, calligraphy, or paintings to be noticed by an examiner in advance, it'd be a great help for them in the imperial examinations. If one couldn't do well for the first and second ranks, then they could only silently find ways in the third rank. Before every imperial examination, many new novels would appear in the capital's bookstores. Within the secret compartments, brand new erotica novels were written with life and color. New plays would be staged every month by major theater troupes in the capital, the sweet maidens behind the carved balustrades singing all kinds of sweet and charming poems. Zhang Ping knew that Chen Shuo had recently become a script writer, and was writing for a romance play. It told a tragic story of a young maiden who accidentally developed amorous feelings during autumn and how she eloped with a scholar but was then snatched by a general to become his concubine. She encountered the scholar after giving birth to 2 babies and didn't know whether she should abandon her children and elope with the scholar again or not. Zhang Ping had once told Chen Shuo before, during the middle of the night, which details to pay attention to and which methods to use to turn the pages faster. Zhang Ping was very grateful to Chen Shuo for his good intentions of helping him find a job, but Zhang Ping's works had always been based on facts. In terms of circumstances, he currently had no work to participate with and he couldn't just groundlessly make something up, therefore he didn't think he fit this job. After they familiarized with each other and seated themselves, Master Jin went straight into the topic with a frank manner. His troupe had recently wanted to line up a new play, and they urgently needed someone to write a new script for it. It needs to be fast. Fast and powerful enough. Mr. Jin said. With his eyes glowing, Zhang Ping could guess what kind of power he wanted, and honestly said, I know dash. Chen Shuo quickly held him down with his sharp eyes and deftness and cut off his words. The play Mr. Jin wants, I dare use my head to guarantee that Zhang Ping is the most suitable candidate for it. He's always been the best at this. Sometimes, when I can't sleep at night, I'll ask him to tell me a story. The things he told me caused me 3 nights of not daring to close my eyes. Mr. Jin clapped his thigh. Excellent. Zhang Gong An really is a one-of-a-kind talent. I need exactly this kind of power to crush those sons of bitches from Qingyuan troop. Notes, Gong An, used to refer to a young man of a noble or official's family. Zhang Ping is referred to as Gong An because he's a scholar. Mrs. Jin nibbled on her melon seed, her eyes narrowed with a smile towards Zhang Ping. Zhang Gong An, if the script you write is more popular than that from Qingyuan troop, then you'd become a talent comparable to even Red Leaves in Western Hills. You might even become this year's top scorer for the imperial examination. Zhang Ping responded calmly. The last few books from Red Leaves in Western Hills Beacon of the Frontier Fortress series are fake. According to speculation, this person should have died a long time ago. Red Leaves in Western Hills was the first person to write legend scripts in this dynasty. It was said that even the Emperor and Prince Huai liked to watch the legends he wrote. Once, when the Empress Dowager watched his famous work Grand Thief in a World of Chaos, and saw Princess Wei Chang sacrifice herself out of love for the Grand Thief, she silently wept to herself. The identity of this person had always been a mystery. A few years ago, after writing Beacon of the Frontier Fortress, he claimed to have sealed his pen. Since then, he'd been hiding in Jianghu. Red Leaves in Western Hills must have died a long time ago. Everyone understands this. Those sons of bitches from Qingyuan troop also knows this. That's why they're flagrantly prospering with a dead man's money. Fuck, this isn't a playful matter. Master Jin said. Leixi and Qingyuan troops could be considered as two of the most outstanding troops in the capital. They'd always been competing with each other, exhibiting various means to steal plays behind the scenes. Mr. Jin received information that Qingyuan troop wanted to make the relationship between the Grand Thief and the Princess from Red Leaves in Western Hills Grand Thief in a World of Chaos into a play, and had recently begun preparing for it. Since this relationship had made the Empress Dowager cry before, Leixi troop felt deeply threatened by this, so they needed to hurry and make a new play that would overwhelm Qingyuan troop. We have to be fierce, otherwise we won't be able to hold them down. Boss Jin gritted his teeth. If you can work hard to make a vicious script, then nobody would dare change it. For a play of ideal lovers, Minister Lan from the Ministry of Rights got engaged with his wife's matters, involving his sister and brother-in-law. Things like pregnancy. Mrs. Jin quickly coughed with her face green, stopping Mr. Jin's words. So we thought about it and chose a ready-made script. But, there's one more thing we have to talk about first. Mrs. Jin's expression turned embarrassed. Gongzi also knows that Red Leaves in Western Hills has an ever-changing reputation. The world is vulgar, so we had no choice but to. Chen Zhou coughed. Brother Zhang, it's like this. Mr. Jin told outsiders that this play was written by a layman Buddhist. It's the boy Malian. He'd already accepted the money and agreed, you see. Malian is also an examinee for the preliminary round, from Sichuan, a rarity who managed to become well known through script writing. He entered a tier of poem compositions openly reprimanding Zhang Ping being unworthy of becoming a scholar, and how he and others felt deeply ashamed of being an examinee with Zhang Ping. Zhang Ping's voice was as flat as a board. I don't mind as long as Malian agrees. Mr. Jin didn't even wait for him to finish speaking before he smilingly said, Zhang Gongzi is such a generous person. Then it decided. The script we chose includes a ghost. In an era like this, we need some supernatural themes to make our plays more interesting. If they have a grand thief and princess, then we have a maiden and great immortal. Chen Chuo clapped. See, Brother Zhang, I just said you were suitable. You're the best for ghost stories. If someone as timid as me wrote this play, I'd be scared to death before even finishing the beginning. I've always believed there aren't any ghosts in this world, Zhang Ping said. Chen Chuo quickly pulled on his sleeves, but Mr. and Mrs. Jin didn't mind. Maybe it was because they believed someone who didn't believe in ghosts would write more daring ghost play, so they continued to enthusiastically talk about plays with Zhang Ping. Zhang Gongzi, things like ghosts indeed exist because the things I've told you are all true. 10 or 20 years ago, my cousin from my mother's side was charmed by a weasel. On the 1st of May, Lanju had an urgent official's business to attend to, needing him to visit the Ministry of Justice to check some old files. He personally sat on a sedan chair to the Ministry of Justice. He'd just come in before he saw a constable holding two people and shoving them to the other side. Master Lan felt the two looked slightly familiar. One looked like Zhang Ping, and the other looked like Chen Zhou. He asked official Lu Dan beside him. What case is this? Official Lu Dan asked. The case hadn't been tried yet. I don't know the specifics, but I heard that one of the scholars named Zhang Ping intended to murder the class teacher of a particular theatric troupe. End chapter.